Hello, gang, and welcome back. I have with me here the Poulan Pro 5020. A lot of you guys might just simply say, why? Getting old. Look at all these wrinkles. Oh, man. Well, as much of a piece of junk I think this is, for some reason, I'm kind of drawn to it, and I want to play. So, there we have it. A lot of folks say that these things are like the same thing as a Rancher 450. From what I've seen, it most definitely is not. It may share a few parts with it, such as things like this, maybe, I don't know. I know it's the same type of setup. Maybe it has the same air filter. I think actually it does have like the same air filter. I'm not sure though. Don't quote me on that. But I am pretty sure that it shares the same muffler. That's the exact same part number as the Husky part, I believe. But aside from little things like that, the things that doesn't matter, you know, they're not the same saw. Maybe cousins. Somebody said they were cousins. Anyways, you can tell right off the bat, though, that the oil and gasoline caps are the same, so Husky flip caps should probably work. As a matter of fact, I might have one laying here. No, I don't. But they really look the same, so you could probably fit the flippy caps off of a Husqvarna 3 Series on here, like a 372. Or the 572, you know, they're the same. So anyways, but what this is about is trying to find a clutch that will work on this saw. Okay, I've tried out everything that I have within reason, you know, and I cannot find anything that will work in place of the original clutch and clutch drum. Okay, what I have right here, this is a clutch setup for the Poulan 295, the Poulan, the Wild Thing, at least the old Wild Thing. So what is that, like the 2150, stuff like that. The 295, the 2150, there's a lot of stuff that used this clutch, right? Well, this clutch will go onto the shaft, right? However, the drum for this clutch is significantly smaller than this drum. What that means is, could I put the entire clutch and drum assembly off of the Poulan 295 on here? Yeah, I could. However, I wouldn't be able to utilize my chain brake because the drum is so small, and that is it grabs onto the drum from the outside. So that's a no-go. All right. Another go or no-go is the Husqvarna Rancher clutch. Right. This right here absolutely is so big. Look at that. I just slid it right over the threads. So that won't work. And it tells me that I don't have a drum. Sucks, but I don't have a drum for this clutch. But even if I did have a drum, since this is so much bigger, then the bearing support shoulder on your crankshaft is probably not going to fit your bearing for the drum of the Rancher 450. So that's not going to work. Which I believe in turn means that none of the clutches from, say, like a Husqvarna 350, 346 XP, none of that stuff is going to work. I have the clutch drum from the Poulan 3300, 3000, 3450, all of those. This is one of those drums. Now this drum right here is the same external dimensions, or at least close, it might work. However, they're not the same height, as well as that bearing right there is not going to match your shaft. But you could get around that, but you're not really going to be able to get around the height there. And the clutch itself does not actually twist on in place right there. So what we're left with is, as far as I also tried the clutch for a Echo 4910 and an Echo 4000. Those could have worked, but it would have been similar problems. I wouldn't have been able to use the brake. Also, I think the 4910 was too big. I would have had to disassemble the brake. So all kinds of problems, and so far I've yet to be able to find something that actually works. And the whole reason for this is I want to run a 325 chain on this saw. It comes set up for a 3/8 full size, a full size 3/8 chain, which is nonsensical. And, you know, if you guys are out there and you're like, I run it and it's fine for me. What I find a lot of times whenever people say that stuff is, I guess, probably a couple different things. One, it's fine for them and they're okay with it. And there you go. And I believe you. All right. I don't want to discredit anyone's opinion. Okay. But more than likely, it seems to be that they don't know any better. All right. Ignorance is bliss. You know. Now, I mean, it may be working out. There's one guy, Kevin Smith. If you're into Poulan's and you're on Facebook, you got to know who Kevin Smith is. And he said he did a 325 swap on one of these things. He can't remember the saw that he used the clutch drum off of. He says it was an Echo, but it could have been a really old Echo. I don't know. But the point of me even talking about this is he's knowledgeable, and he says that he prefers a 16-inch bar 3/8 chain on these saws. I want to run a 20-inch bar, and I want it to be 325. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to like that the best. So I want to switch to 325 chain, and in order to make that happen, I need to find a drum that fits this saw and fits the brake on this saw and is capable of having a 325. Now, I want it to be a rim sprocket setup. Rim sprocket is like this so that you can exchange the sprockets back and forth off of it, and you can easily test 3/8 versus 3/8 low profile versus 325. You can go just do a lot more testing, right? But at this point, I'm confident that there's really only one feasible thing I can do, and that is to order a new drum that is 325 setup. And what would I get it from? The exact same saw, but the saw was built for the European market. I don't know what the issue is going on, but it seems like, you know, the European market has a lot less size issues as we Americans have. We Americans really tend to think bigger is better, bigger is better, bigger is better. And so whenever this saw was built for the American market, they wanted to throw a big 20-inch 3/8 bar and chain on there so that we would go, woo, look at that, and buy it. And I think they succeeded. But it would have been way better off if they had had a 325 bar and chain setup on there, because this thing just absolutely does not have the power to pull a full 3/8 setup. It makes it doggy and slow. I mean, it's doggy and slow anyways, but it just amplifies the problem. But this same chainsaw was made for the European market, branded as a McCulloch 50S, right? It's a McCulloch. And if you can find a website, which I have, you go to, I think it's a McCulloch, it's a UK website. And I pulled up the diagram, and I could find the part number for the clutch drum, right? And it'll be up on the screen right here. I then took that part number and did a search for it, and I found a site that actually has I can order from, and it's only $10. I think it's Proprietary has it. It's $10, but Proprietary, the big thing that gets you with them is they like to charge you like $11 shipping fee, and so that $10 quickly becomes $20, which, you know what, $20 for a clutch drum isn't that bad. The big problem that I see is that it's still a spur sprocket rather than a rim sprocket setup. I really wanted the rim sprocket. But I don't get that. So the big difference with these things is they got the bearing pressed into them. So that's one of the big issues. For some reason, they decided to do that. I guarantee it centered around money in some fashion. But so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to order that 325 drum. I'll probably tack on a few other things because, like I said, with Proprietary, they have a big shipping fee, so you might as well go ahead and get 4 or 5 things. That way it makes this shipping fee worthwhile. But yeah, so we're going to leave this right where it's at. We're going to go ahead and reassemble this setup. And we're going to walk away from it for now. And whenever that 325 drum gets in, I'll be able to do a test with a full 3/8 setup versus a 325 setup. But I've looked and looked and looked, and I'm telling you what, if there is actually a setup out there that would work on this, well, I just don't have it. So, you know, I'm not 100% certain. Well, no, I'm not even going to say that. I was going to say that I think maybe there's a Husqvarna clutch cover that would work on this thing. However, I don't think that there is. This right here, this saw came in a couple different models. It was the 5020 and it was also the 4818. And they seem to be completely proprietary. There's nothing else out there like them, except for a few one-off parts, like I was saying, that match up with other saws, like maybe the air filter and the exhaust and stuff like that. But yeah, so for now, we're going to wait for the 325 drum to come in. I'm going to go ahead and order that right now after this video. And there was something else I wanted to say about this. One guy in my comments, you know, I get it. We all just want to be part of the conversation, or you all want to be part of the conversation. And so you put comments down there and say things. But one guy's comment I thought was kind of funny. Basically, he said that he was disappointed in me for not delving into this deeper. And that's both flattering and, I don't know, it's not hurtful. No, not at all. But it's kind of flattering because he's like, you're the kind of guy that would really take things further. But if you know me, I am just like a dog and I get squirreled. What? You know, and so I ran this thing. It always fires up for me. Always. But it's pukey slow. I mean, there's no power to it whatsoever. It's really trash as far as the power goes. But a lot of people say they really wake up with a muffler mod, which I can totally believe that, because most things this day and age does. But anyways, I just got squirreled, and this is back burner. And right now I had the opportunity to look into it a little bit and finally try and nail down this clutch drum issue. And what I've come to is I've got to order the clutch drum that is for the McCulloch 50S. Because that is a 325 setup for this saw. And if you guys want to do that, you can do that with me. And like I said, I put up it'll be in the video, the part number and everything what you need to buy. And in the future, I will showcase the difference between the 3/8 chain and the 3/2/5 chain, as well as probably just simply do little mods. I don't know, I might go in there and do some more work. I'm not sure. I am pretty certain that this is one of those setups where they have plastic inserts into the transfers in the cylinder. This throws a lot of people for a loop. They think that it'll be a performance increase if you remove those. Knowing what I know now about all this setup and stuff, I think that that's a brilliant idea, and that's a cheap and easy way for them to close up your crankcase and give you less volume in your crankcase, because you actually want less volume. You actually want less volume. Everybody, and there are different ways of building. Like if you're building a specific way and you do things, that's fine. But generally speaking, you want as minuscule a volume as you can possibly get in that bottom end, because that makes your fuel move quicker, right? It's taking up less space, and so we can move it quicker. Now, if moving it quicker is not your goal, if you're wanting something that's lower RPM and going to have a really broad power band, right? Then you may want more volume down in the basement, you know. But a lot of stuff gets said about that, and they say, oh, it's a more torquey saw. It's probably not a more torquey saw. Okay, I've said things too in my past videos and everything, but you learn, right? And you grow. And if you're not learning and growing, then what's the point? I'm definitely learning and growing with everything. And what's happening whenever you have large volume in your crankcase isn't necessarily you have more torque. You have a saw with broad power. So instead of it operating perfectly between 9,000 and 11,000 RPMs, you're operating perfectly between 7,000 and 10.5 RPMs. So it makes the saw feel different, and as you're using it, you're like, this thing, the chain slows down, but it doesn't stop. And so that's because you have a broader power band, not because you have more torque. The torque numbers might be identical, but more than likely they're a little bit lower, right? They just peak. They're a slow mound of peak versus whenever you have your crank stuffers or your full circle crank or a tight bottom end, you know, crankcase. It might peak like this. You're probably putting out more power with the peak. However, it's more usable with the lower curve of power. This went someplace I wasn't expecting it to go, but we're there now, and I hope you enjoyed it. So all I want with this thing really is for it to run decent, you know, and maybe like I'll permanently mount it to the Craftsman GT6000 garden tractor or something. This is just, and you know, we all have our opinions, so don't get mad at me for mine, you know. I don't get mad at you for yours. In my opinion, this is a junk saw. It's an absolute junk, trash, throwaway saw. And so I don't mind permanently mounting it onto a garden tractor that will see the rain quite a bit, you know. It'll see the sun and it'll fade that plastic and stuff. I don't care. I don't care. It's junk. But, like I said, it does always fire up every time I try. It probably wouldn't right now because that gas that's in there is about 8 or 10 months old, you know. But anyways, I blabber. That's what I do. And wish me luck and much success on this little adventure where I'm going to play with this saw. Maybe get it to run twice as good as stock. Because if it ran twice as good as stock, then, you know, I mean, that would be a viable saw to mess around with and play.